The Tories have analysed Treasury data and say that a certain level of taxation for people would, of taxation, people at a certain level of taxation, sorry, I should learn to lead, people would stop selling assets such as shares, businesses and second homes. Well, what a mess I made of that.
No, I was more thinking of what a mess they've made of it, all of them, including the Tories who started this little show. I won't say the other word, but we're joined now by Curtis Daly, who's the founder of Turn Left Media. Hello, Curtis. Welcome to the programme.
Hello.
Now, look,
it's a pleasure.
Do you feel that they're just politicking? They're saying that, but you would say that they would say that. I mean, and before you say it, I'll say it, they left a real mess. So some people might say it's hypocrisy at the highest level that they are now expressing, concern after the mess that they left.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Nana. This is political posturing, because if we look at that data, the headline from the Telegraph, the Treasury hasn't come to the conclusion that the wealth tax would reduce revenue or even hit a certain point. It is just what a Tory MP has claimed. And as I said, it's political posturing because they don't support a wealth tax. Now, often with economic models, you can pretty much claim anything. You can use your own data to support your own bias. You could have two people look at the same data and both could extrapolate tiny bits of information to support their cause. It's better to look at what actually happened. Now, I'm no supporter of Labour and certainly not a supporter of Rachel Reeves, but she increased capital gains tax and it brought in more revenue. In fact, 89% increase in revenue, and these numbers were released by HMRC, reported in the Financial Times. So rather than speculation, we can look at the facts, and increasing capital gains tax brought in more money. Where I disagree with the entire premise is that increasing capital gains isn't a wealth tax.
But it just smacks of the politics of envy, constantly taxing those who've done well for themselves, who earn a bit more money and who already are paying so much more to the Exchequer than those who are obviously not earning as much. Is it intrinsically fair to keep taxing the richer, those higher earners?
Well, you're making a moral argument. I'm making an economic argument. I can touch upon the moral argument if you want. But the one thing that is a good policy, again, I'm not supporting Rachel Reeves, but increasing capital gains tax, it should be equalised to income tax. I would say it's morally wrong that people are being taxed more for their work than those who are sitting on assets. It's also important to understand that when it comes to income tax, yes, middle class and richer people are paying quite a lot of tax. But we're not talking about income tax. We're talking about a wealth tax. And once again, the political class have got it wrong. I mean, last year, Jeremy Hunt said increasing capital gains would be a disaster. The OBR said the same thing, yet they were embarrassingly wrong. Now, look, let's pretend for a second, just for a second, that those who oppose a wealth tax are right, that increasing it, the rich leave. It doesn't happen, but for the sake of the argument, I'll go with it. There are so many things the Treasury can do, such as an exit tax. Spain has one. If you're going to try and get around paying taxes or not paying taxes and starve our public services, if you try and leave, we'll slap you with an exit tax. Now, taxing the wealthy isn't particularly hard to do. It's the political will. Labour, Reform, the Tories, all funded by billionaires and billionaires, which is why they would never implement a proper wealth tax. The corporate media owned by the billionaires, which includes GB News, hate the idea of a wealth tax. Majority of people in this country, 80% want to see one, want to see a wealth tax. It's about time the government listened to the people.
Well, I think there are two different angles to wealth tax. You can be taxing normal citizens from property and wealth that they've created, or you can look at big business, like the Amazons and those who manage to go to different, place their assets in other areas or register in different locations so they can avoid paying tax. If I was a government, I'd be looking at that rather than looking at individual citizens. And also, when you look at capital gains, what I don't hear you mentioning is that when you are making that capital gain, often you're making a loss in many times. So will a tax take into account, for example, a property and asset has been in negative equity for a long time? You are having to support it. Now, just because now you look at it, it's earned more. What about the losses that you've had to ride at the point when you lost the money? Now you're riding high, but before that you were losing. So I think it's a little bit unfair. Will it factor anything like that?
Well, Nana, your first point, you are spot on. I completely agree with you. The government should be prioritising big business, massive corporations, not small businesses. In fact, as a socialist, as a left-winger myself, I would like to see the tax burden on small businesses reduced. In terms of negative equity, well, we're talking about assets that are increasingly going up in price. So, for example, housing. We are literally in a housing bubble and a housing crisis. At the moment, the value keeps going up. Now, one thing Mel Stride, who's the Tory MP, who sort of criticised this, made a kind of a good point. He said the problem with capital gains is it's taxed on the sale of lands, of homes, of businesses. I think that is a little bit wrong. What I would say is I support a land value tax, which means those who own lots of assets over a particular income, so you're not someone with a second home but got lots of houses, lots of land, you pay an annual tax. That then is levied against small businesses. We could abolish business rates altogether, and then small businesses would save money by not paying property taxes, and you're levying it with a land value tax on the landowners.
Well, what about
that is
farmers?
a policy I want to see.
Well, what about farmers? Would you exclude farmers from that? Because that's not really fair. The name of their game is land, so they can provide food. So that sounds great until you look at the people who provide, who are looking after our food security and keeping land so they can provide for the nation.
Yeah, I don't see why they, potentially could look into a particular exemption. I don't think there's any problem with that. I know the Green Party have been looking at ways to try and do some sort of, political program with farmers. So I think in terms of that, yeah, you can say there should be an exemption. But at the moment, you've got people are renting houses or small businesses such as pubs who are paying so much in rent. And the reason why they're paying so much in rent is because the cost or the value of land is higher. Levy a land value tax annually. It reduces the value of the land, it increases those to sell land, and also it reduces rent for those who are, again, pub landlords or a small business.
I hear you,
abolish
but
business rates on top of that.
I've been a landlord for many years. It doesn't always work like that. Interest rates go up, and you have to kind of ride them, and many times you don't make any money at all, Curtis. All right, Curtis Daly, thank you very much.
I would say abolish business rates in favour of that, so you would save money for small businesses.
All right,
thank you, Curtis.